World Health Organization (WHO) warns over 1.4 billion people globally suffer from hypertension, yet only a fifth have it under control, resulting in millions of preventable deaths annually. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the breaking news I found in the world media right this moment. I welcome all of you from inside the country and from around the globe to SATV's International Affairs, broadcasting from SATV's Dhaka studio. My name is Rashid Kanchon. I have a very distinguished panelist today. He is an international consultant, Sir John Charles Dalton, and from Washington we will have Norman Flood Barnes, SATV's geopolitical correspondent based in Washington DC. From United Nations General Assembly headquarters we will have Shamsul Alam Pantho, SATV's international affairs commentator. He is joining from New York. And from Russia, Moscow, we will have communications and tourism commentator. She is also Russia affairs commentator, Mrs. Alfia Valitova. She will be joining from Moscow. Let me begin with Sir Jalton. Sir, there are so many things happening in the world. First, let me ask you, what are you hearing? What are you listening? What are you going to say to your viewers that in 2-3 days happens in especially UNGA, especially Netanyahu's speech and controversy has begun among the European leaders?
Yeah, I think that the continued isolation of Israel is going to be a major theme throughout the next several weeks. The situation on the ground, the reality simply cannot continue. The loss of life is just horrific. So I think that Israel as a bad actor will join Russia as a bad actor in the ongoing discussion about what's happening in global affairs. I also think that the next meeting on September 30th of the Rohingya crisis is very important for Bangladesh. And it's very important for everyone to pay attention to how this situation has evolved and whether or not it can be solved. Everyone is saying, of course, this has to be handled politically. But politics requires diplomacy at this level. And the resident government, the military junta in Myanmar, is not ready to negotiate at all. And it's unlikely that they can absorb the more than 1 million people that are now living in Bangladesh. So I think those are two of the big issues that are going to be talked about, and I think Trump's flip-flop on Ukraine will also get some press back in the United States.
All right, sir. There are so many things regarding Mr. Zelensky and Vladimir Putin's update as well. Let me connect with Washington DC, where Norman is there. Norman, what are the latest world news updates you have? What are the latest breaking news you have? Would you please put it on the table for discussions today? Mr. Norman Flood Barnes from Washington, D.C.
Yes, good morning from Washington, D.C. Today, we are dealing with a weather-related emergency. We have two developing hurricanes off the coast of the East Coast, and we're waiting to see how they develop. The next thing is that the President of the United States has authorized the use of military small troops to go into Portland, Oregon, to address the issues with immigrations.
All right.
And the most significant issue is whether we have an issue with the budget. The president's going to meet today with leaders to avert, hopefully, a shutdown for this week regarding the budget. We have to have a balanced budget to run the country, and as of Tuesday, until it's not done Tuesday, the government will shut down.
All right, Norman. I just received news that President Trump's speech in United Nations General Assembly is hugely criticized even among his partners, especially NATO partners. I just want to put a question to Sir John Dalton. Sir, when Trump blames China, India and NATO of fueling Russia, is this rhetorical politics or a credible critic of global energy independence?
Well, I think he's right to say that that's the problem that Russia is being financed, the revenues are declining. Russia is being financed by sales of oil to India and to still existing some NATO countries. And to say that this, cut off the fuel, don't buy any more fuel from Russia as a way to strangle their budget and prevent them from operating efficiently, I think that's a specific isolated case. But more generally, it also has to do with fossil fuels. That fossil fuels at the United Nations, there was a big source of debate about China's position, about Russia's position, but it's the planet is being burnt alive, and something has to be done about it. So the whole energy structure, the whole energy political superstructure is being called into question. Russia's actions are basically what Trump is asking Russia to do, asking India to do is don't buy any more oil from Russia, let's strangle them economically. That's a little bit of a different strategy and power play than the broader economic impacts of global warming.
All right, sir. For Norman, I have a very complicated question at this moment because Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has warned Russia may strike another European nation. He did not clear it that whether that nation is a NATO member. My question is, how credible is that risk, and how should NATO states adjust their air defense posture in response of Russia?
Yes, the comment by Ukraine about what Russia may or may not do, I don't think is credible. Yes, it could happen. It may be happening, but I don't think Ukraine has a position to determine or even suggest that they may attack another country. It appears that they are probing, they're doing other things, but right now the focus for him should be on how do we resolve this issue in Ukraine.
Norman, one more question I just want to put. Trump's more recent statements suggest that US now supports Ukraine taking back all territory. How might this shift affect US policy, military aid and diplomatic strategy toward Russia and NATO?
Well, basically, if you listen to the wording, it is stated that the United States could support, will support. However, they are expecting the European Union to get involved, to engage. The position of the United States is now shifting towards more of a support role versus a leadership role. They will basically lead from the rear, and they want other European parties to participate in this process. Yes, there's a possibility, there's potential, but action is depending on the participants of Europe.
Now I need to go to a different aspects in United Nations took place, sir, with Russia failing to regain its ICAO council seat at UN Aviation Assembly. What message does this send about Russia's standing in global institutions, and can that isolation be sustained?
It's one of those periodic things, I must say. It's well deserved. Russia is a rogue state. They are adventurous. They try to, they have been involved in many situations that would bring dishonor to their position in the International Civil Aviation Organization's Governing Council, because they have rejected the standard airplane maintenance requirements that are a part of the ICAO. They have bombed and killed civilians on the ground, which is also against that. The ICAO also holds them accountable for shooting down the Malaysia Airlines plane several years ago. So they're seen as a bad actor in that forum. But of course, all of this is just geopolitical posturing. I mean, we can say that that's one of the reasons why that they've done these terrible things. But the fact of the matter is, it's all about alliances and allegiances with other countries that are there that will give Russia their vote no matter what they do. And contrarily, there'll also be votes that will be against Russia on the premise that we just oppose Russia's war in Ukraine, or we oppose Russia selling oil, or whatever it happens to be. But they've been isolated over and over again. I mean, this is just one example of it, but Russian teams can't compete in the World Cup. Russian teams cannot compete in the Olympics. Russia is a certified pariah on the international stage. And the more that in fact, some countries refuse even to go to Eurovision, the nice competition that the European countries have in the music sphere, if a Russian participant or Israeli participant is involved. So people are now speaking more broadly about the character and the value of the countries that they're going to vote for. It's not just realpolitik anymore. There are also some value-laden votes that are going into this. And I think it's a sign that Russia's position in the world is declining, which must drive Putin totally out of his mind.
Sir, hundreds of sanctions, including the financial segments like switched off of Russian different financial cooperation with the other banks, sanctions on Russian airplanes, sanctions on Russian ships, ports, everything got sanctions. How Russian people are coping up with this kind of disconnections or isolations with the world by the decisions of their favorite leader, Vladimir Putin?
Well, they may not have the full story. I mean, it's entirely possible that the messages that are going in Russia to the Russian civilian population paint this as a heroic action by the Russian leader, that he's standing up to the world, and that he will brook no discussion on the standing of Russia in the world. So the average citizen, and you can ask your other guests as well, but the average citizen has been very tolerant of the adventurism of Vladimir Putin and his worldview. They've lost hundreds of thousands of lives trying to penetrate little tiny Ukraine in their 3-day war, which is now extended on to 3 years. So I'm sure he's losing some credibility among certain segments of the population. But when someone like Alexei Navalny comes in and opposes him, of course, you see the consequences. He's arrested and then suddenly mysteriously, dies in confinement. So this is a critical question. I think that it can be fairly said of the Russians that they love their country and hate their government. We'll see how it plays out.
This is a very powerful words. Russian people love their motherland, but they hate the government. Norman, are you there? I just want to put one question regarding the Sergei Lavrov, the foreign minister of Russia, is warning that aggression against Russia will prompt decisive response. He said it in a United Nations General Assembly. Is part of a broader rhetoric posture. To what extent is this deterrence, signaling, or bluster, and how should NATO interpret it? Is it a kind of threat from Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov?
What we're hearing is more words. The words are just, paper, words, comments. Action is what we waiting to see. The psychological game is basically to let you know that we have the ability, we understand, and we could do something. But what we actually do, it will be determined. So right now, all we're hearing is a lot of rhetoric, a lot of comments, but actually, it appears that they are more of a using the term defensive mode versus offensive. So they say they will respond if they're provoked, agitated, or one of their planes are shot down. So what that means, we don't know.
Norman, I just want to ask you about the speech of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in the United Nations General Assembly. Most of the Muslim countries' leaders, most of the African countries' leaders, even few European countries' leaders has left or walked out from the plenary session, while Netanyahu was giving his speech. Was this an indication that the world is no more supporting selling arms to Israel and supporting Israel to occupy Gaza and killing innocent women, men, children?
This the actual protests of the actual where the delegates stood up and walked out was a clear sign to the world and to the prime minister that they do not appreciate, do not support or condone his actions. Very simple, very clear, very clean. We don't want you here. We don't want to listen to anything you say. We just want this conflict to end. Stop it now.
One more thing, Norman. We are hearing that Donald Trump's federal shutdown will be very soon. Do you think it will undermine his capacity on his administration to run the administration very smoothly, or he's facing tough situation with the Democrats in the House to continue his administration because shutdown is probably will be happening this week? We are hearing that.
Yes, we have a very serious situation here. We have to have a balanced budget to operate. Uh, Up until this moment, there has been no concession, no agreement by the Democrats and Republican to have a balanced budget. The plain issue right now is the Affordable Act, health care. The Democrats is pushing, they want to extend it. Uh, the Trump administration do not. They want to move on with the budget. They want to move on, and we have a stalemate. Right now, the president is supposed to meet with top leaders today to discuss that, but the position is still the same, nothing is saying on the side. One party want the health care promoted, other parties do not. So that equals to no government October 1st.
All right, get the same opinion from Sir John Charles Dalton. Sir, in 21st century, we have seen America is the most powerful country in the world. Their economy is number one. Their leadership, their communication, their diplomacy is almost influencing all countries around the globe. At this situation, a person like Donald Trump is the president, and he is facing problem to run his government due to the budget shortfall. How do you see this?
Well, I mean, Trump is not an active participant in the budget process. He just mouths all of these statements that he thinks what should be done. Cutting off the Affordable Care Act, which was essentially called Obamacare when it first passed, it's just retribution. He has no interest in health care one way or the other. He's promised the best health care in the world. He can't deliver anything. So his whole idea is like, let's kill Obamacare because the word Obama is associated with it. In the past, every time there's been a situation like this, and it happens every year because we can't pass an integrated budget, so we all have these continuing resolutions. So the president and the opposition party, whatever it happened to be, have always met to discuss the issue. Trump refuses to meet with the two Democratic leaders of the House and the Senate.
Including Jack Schumer.
Including Schumer and Jeffries. He refuses to meet with them. So he's not looking at consensus and never has, and that's not his philosophy on anything. His philosophy is, I'm right, you're wrong, I'll tell you what to do and do it. And but he's really a bumbler. I mean, when it comes down to it, he will stumble in and out of all of these kind of problems. The budget crisis in America happened as soon as Bill Clinton left office. The last balanced budget the United States has, in fact, and the first time we had a surplus was when Bill Clinton was the president. Did I say governor? He was a governor too, but he was the president. And I think that the things that are being sacrificed, Medicare, Medicaid, health care, all the things that benefit individual people gets cut by the Republicans. Things that benefit big business, big corporations, the rich and the powerful are all supported by the Republican Party. It's an awful thing. I mean, you have to wonder, how is it possible that all of this bluster enabled American voters to say this is the guy we should have, because we don't want education for our kids. We don't want meals for our kids. We don't want to protect our children or our young adults or anything. We just want to be left alone. And they voted for a guy who would simply has abandoned his responsibility. You know, he went golfing on Saturday.
Yes.
I mean, if this is a crisis, do you go golfing?
Yeah.
So he's really a strange guy in that respect, you know?
Yeah, recently he was using one word. I just want to get Norman again. He was out of any camera for 2-3 days after the Alaska summit, and suddenly he has been found in Virginia golf course. He said, "Chillax." Journalist asked him, "What is chillax, sir?" He said, "Chill and relax." A president like Donald Trump, who has crazy followers, who has crazy supporters, he has been elected for second times in United States presidency, but he is not caring the health care for the US citizens. He is not taking care of the education budget, and he is in a position to shut down his federal government. Norman, would you please tell what are the American people are saying right this moment, that they have done wrong decision to bring back this man to White House, or what are the impression of the US editorials going on US presidency?
Well, the situation has appeared for what it is. The American people elected a person who represents change, and change is what they have. His approach is basically a authoritarian type of process. Right now, he's making strategic moves to control the government, to control the narrative, and to put down people who are opposite of him. So he's basically looking for total power, total control. The American people, however, is watching to see exactly how he implement this and what effect it's going to have on them. It will have a profound effect on how we operate for the next century. How we operate. The things are being put in place now to determine how we move forward and how we interact with the world and how we prolong our legacy. So the question is right now is basically, some people are upset, other people are astonished, most people are shocked. They're waiting to see exactly, is it he's going to fulfill his prophecy, exactly what he says he's going to do, or he just another bust?
Okay, one more thing I want to put Sir Dalton's table. As per American Constitution, US Marines, US Air Force, US Navy and US other forces are loyal and dedicated to face the external threat and for the country's interest outside of the country. But recently Donald Trump is ordering one after one to deploy them inside the country to restore the law and order situation inside the country. Do you think this is a controversy? This controversy will sustain long time regarding the Donald Trump's administration, how he misused his power against the American people?
Well, that's an interesting and difficult question in some respects, okay? Because Republicans have always believed in states' rights, that the people at the local level should be able to control their own destiny, make their own decisions, find a path, individual path in each of the 50 states for how they want their lives to be led. And that has been a Republican principle forever. So now when Donald Trump comes in and says, well, I'm going to mobilize the National Guard, which is reserved to the states in all of the laws, that I will mobilize them under the Emergency Powers Act that I have, and I will send them into mostly Democratic cities. I mean, Memphis was an exception because that had a black mayor. Okay, I'll go there too. But the fact of the matter is that this will be struck down as overreach by the President of the United States. There being no conditions of emergency that would justify a warrant in the President to mobilize the military. He mobilized the military specifically not just the National Guard, but the military in Los Angeles, where the Marines were brought in and were basically allowed to sleep for a month. Actually, he's such a cheap guy, he only wanted them to be there for 29 days so he wouldn't have to pay the fee. He didn't have to pay the expenses. So this is a really breach of the fundamental principles of the states' rights. But the court, you know, the United States Supreme Court is like a wholly owned subsidiary of Donald Trump. And so to try to get them to pass some decision which goes against his power has been extremely difficult to achieve. So it's a moot point. They're going to go to Oregon. Oregon's a very, very democratic state. Portland is a very democratic city. It's a beautiful area of the country on the Pacific coast. He will invent a problem just so he can like bang his chest and show that he's the big man, you know, like a gorilla. It's a disappointing situation, okay, that play out like this, but he's being led by the nose by certain people in his administration who are terrible fascists. I mean, terrible people, in my view. You know, I'm an American, I vote. I didn't vote for him. So, but I can see that eventually this will be struck down by the courts as contrary to the Constitution. He does not have the power as Commander-in-Chief to use the Emergency Powers Act to do these things, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Recently, he said to a media with Fox that President Vladimir Putin is letting him down.
Yeah.
And editor asked that is a counterpart can comment on other counterpart that he's letting me down. Your expectation should not be so high that whatever you're going to say, he will listen. Yes, sir. President Trump said that once he come back again, he will make America great again. And American people are saying that he is letting American people down and they are upset on their president. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for a short commercial break.
Grand Palace, 5-star chain hotel, Zinda Bazar, Sylhet. Local and international cuisines. Exclusive banquet hall for all events. 5-star luxurious rooms and suites with bulletproof glass. Fiberglass swimming pool. Relaxing spa. Well-equipped gym. Experience panoramic beauty at Satv Restaurant. Welcome to Grand Palace Hotel. Grand Palace Hotel and Resorts, Jollar Par, Zinda Bazar, Sylhet, Bangladesh.
বাংলাদেশে দীর্ঘ ৩৭ বছরের সাফল্যের অগ্রযাত্রায় এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন আধুনিক ও শৈল্পিক স্থাপত্য শিল্পের দেশ।
Let me begin from Washington. Norman is there. Norman, would you please let us know about the UNGA operations? I mean UNGA seminars or meetings. What is the outcome so far you have got in a summary? Please tell us what is the outcome of this UNGA, because people are asking, the countries are asking that effectiveness of United Nations is getting very, very down. Maybe one day there will be no United Nations. United Nations will be in history. After this comment, what is your comment?
The meetings has brought countries together, and everyone is believing and everyone feel that the world has to change. We are doing things that are contrary to our future. We're getting in too many conflicts. We're not talking with each other. We're not working with them. We're not sharing resources. We are basically at war with each other. And the reason is that we have failed to communicate and understand exactly what our fellow brothers, our sisters, what our needs are and how we can get things going on. There are a few authoritarians who wants to basically control the narrative. For the most part, everyone else is trying to basically survive. What effect the United Nations, the meetings, the delegates, the representatives have on the multipolar world is going to be questioned. Things are happening, technology. We have young people coming up. People are now watching, they're learning, they're listening, they're talking to each other. At the same time, we have a body of people who's supposed to be creating peace, communications, and goodwill. They have been very effective to some of the issues that we have happening in the world. So the question is now, what effect do the current United Nations body have in determining our future? Will they be a part of it, or should we have to move to something else? So, so right now there's a lot of conversation, resolutions, and other, but very little action. So until some action takes place, or the authority to take action takes place, there will be little change going on. It'll be a situation where this experiment may just fade away and develop something else.
Sir Norman, I just want to do a similar question to Sir Dalton, because he has experience working over 7 continents, 6 continents, more than 40 countries, different positions, different organizations. Are recently United States declared, Donald Trump declared that he's going to stop the funding to United Nations. United Nations is facing shortfall of its budget. They are cutting staffs. My question would be, one day League of Nations has gone to the history. Its place is on the history now, and some commentators and some critics are saying might be one day United Nations will be taking place in the history, because United Nations did not raise voice on Israel-Iran issue, Israel-Gaza issue, Ukraine-Russia issue, and also India-Pakistan issue. They are just silent. Everything is done by the President of United States. So why the necessity of United Nations will not be over?
Well, there's always a resolution condemning the parties and asking people to get together to find peace. The United Nations is a talking shop. The General Assembly is just a meeting place of the world to come together to shake hands and show each other what's happening. And I think its legitimacy clearly is at risk, but it's fixable. Because, the United Nations is 17 agencies. The United Nations is a wonderful organization. UNESCO, UNDP,
UNICEF.
UNIDO, United Nations Women. We look at the General Assembly and we see how that happens, but during the 364 other days, country members are involved in committees. Country members are sitting on these individual associations and agencies. There are 17 agencies and affiliated organizations that comprise the United Nations. So the World Bank and the IMF are affiliated organizations that follow the UN guidelines in many ways. But look at all of the important work that gets done by UN agencies. And so I think that the General Assembly is just simply a kind of a showpiece.
Yeah.
And all of the speeches at the General Assembly, I'm very happy that they all walked out on Netanyahu. Okay, but if you look at any of the UNDP, the videos on YouTube, almost everybody is talking to an empty house. So all of those speeches are for local consumption. Even the chief advisor here, when he was speaking to a mostly empty house, except for those people that came, a delegation with him, and maybe a few others. So that part of it is all theater. The General Assembly is just a once in a while theater. But the hard work of the UN agencies has to be admired. They do a lot of good stuff.
Sir, I personally covered many times, couple of times UNGA. I found that the leader is giving the speech, only his people are listening to him, no other countries, and 2 or 3 UN officials are there to just preside over the UN session. So I don't think this speech should be in United Nations. I personally believe you better give this speech to your country in your own language. Let me ask you different questions with a very dangerous news for Norman. Norman, you heard that Russia has begun developing drones, rockets and hybrid attacks, and as well as they have begun deploying more drones, more rockets and hybrid attacks, while Ukraine responds with naval drones against oil port infrastructure. How is the nature of war evolving in Ukraine in terms of escalation, thresholds, technology and asymmetry?
Yes, the war actually, as we speak, in the intensification of the war has today in Ukraine. Russia has upscaled its drone and missile attacks today. I suspect that they will be increasing that over the next week or so. Ukraine has indicated that they, with the help of NATO and supplies by the United States to NATO, will venture into attacking deep into Russia. Basically, they will send missiles, drones, and also attacking Russia. So we're now fighting Russia against Ukraine, homeland against homeland, and we see how the best things play out. Technology, cyber attacks, drone attacks, missiles is going to be the wave of the future. This is not going to go away. As long as Ukraine has supplies, they will send missiles. They will attack. They will defend themselves to this point where now they will turn to the aggressor. Russia, on the same sense, will continue to pound Ukraine to the point where basically there's no infrastructure available for them to sustain itself. So basically, we're looking at two parties basically digging holes for each other. They basically want to nullify each other. They're going to knock each other out, and technology will allow them to do that. The technology we have right now will allow both of these fighting parties to annihilate each other.
All right, Norman, as you have time limitations, I will have last question to you. We have seen Donald Trump is hosting many dinners, many lunch with for the Western leaders, especially his NATO partners. Probably they are preparing and discussing the possible threats from Russia. Do you have any news? Do you have any updates? What are the decisions he's going to make to face Russia? Because in Donald Trump's, he has 4 questions for the American people. One is how Donald Trump is going to face Russia, how Donald Trump is going to face Vladimir Putin, how Donald Trump is going to face Chinese trade aggression, etc., etc. My question is, do you have any news on that? What are the Western leaders and how they are preparing themselves to face Vladimir Putin?
The current strategy that I'm getting is basically is that the Trump administration is going to delegate responses support from Europe. He's readopting the America First mentality. We'll take care of ourselves. We take care of our home first. We will supply the necessary resources. We will provide the necessary support you need. But basically, we want you, the European front, to basically help Ukraine look at and deal with NATO and deal with Russia. We will support you. We're not going to take the front door lead. We'll support you, but we want you to engage. This is your front door, and you have to protect yourself.
All right, Norman, thank you very much. Wish you a good day, very good day. Have a nice sleep, sir. For your contribution, I really appreciate. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, sir. Sir,
Can I add a little bit to that?
Yes, sir.
I think that one of the things to notice, to keep your eye on, is the fact that Trump is talking now about the European Union, not NATO. That Trump is saying the European Union has to defend, has to be the front line.
He has changed the terms.
Well, he's very careful not to have NATO involved, because that would just bring about Article 5. So he doesn't want to get into a situation where the United States is going to get drawn into something by provocative actions by Russia. So he's talking about the EU stepping up. And it's a subtle but very specific change in the rhetoric, I think.
Sir, do you think is this because of Turkey? Turkey is a member of NATO and Turkey has a soft relationship with Moscow, and Turkey President Erdogan has a good relationship with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Is that the reason that Donald Trump is scared to say about NATO rather than he's saying about the European Union? He's scared about Erdogan.
No, I think he's just simply trying to make sure that he has buffered NATO against the possibility of a direct confrontation with Russia by using the European Union, which is bigger, of course, than NATO, using the European Union as the talking point for him. And this relieves him of any kind of risk that might happen if all of his rhetoric results in some confrontation and some kind of trouble with Russia. I just think it's a subtle distinction, but it's to me it's an important one to watch this and say, well, how is the European Union being drawn into this, and why is Trump sort of not talking about NATO? When we talk here about the Russia's incursion into NATO, fly over NATO, we recognize that risk of Article 5. But when it becomes the European Union, there's no guarantee that the United States will respond to an attack on Luxembourg.
All right, sir. I'll be back soon after a short commercial break, and I'll ask you a very interesting question. You know, Xi Jinping is a communist, but he is a nationalist. My question would be to you, as because one of my very regular viewer, he is a professor of English department of a very popular university in the country. He said, when you get Sir Dalton again, ask him a question, who is more nationalist, Trump, Putin, Modi, or Xi Jinping? I'll ask these questions to you. Ladies and gentlemen, let me come back after a short commercial break.
মালয়েশিয়ার কুয়ালালামপুরে লাখো গ্রাহকদের প্রয়োজনের দিক লক্ষ্য রেখে নিশ্চিত বিশ্বস্ততা ও আন্তর্জাতিক মানের সেবা এখন ডোর টু ডোর। এসএ পরিবহন কুরিয়ার অ্যান্ড পার্সেল সার্ভিস এসডিএন বিএইচটি 120 জালান্তুন এইচএস লি 50050 কুয়ালালামপুর মালয়েশিয়া। এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস আপনার সেবায় সব সময়।
Explore the magnificent view of Rangpur. 5-star facilities, Reed Chain Hotel, Grand Palace. Relax in spacious rooms and suites. Enjoy local and international.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I promised you that I will ask a question to Sir John Charles Dalton, and this question has been endorsed to me by an English professor from Dhaka University. He said, he requested to do this question to Sir Dalton. Sir, you know, Xi Jinping is a communist, but he is a nationalist. Modi is a Hinduism leader, he is a nationalist. Vladimir Putin is a nationalist, and also Donald Trump is a nationalist. Question is, who is the most terrific nationalist?
Hall of Fame, the Hall of Fame of nationalists, autocrats. Well, I would have to go with Xi for the fact that he has absolute control. I mean, his power extends to the furthest reaches in all of China, and he is able through his minions to keep people under control, but in a very interesting way, because since he converted to sort of this Chinese model of capitalism, the country is benefiting, and to the point that other countries are complaining that China is producing too much and dumping goods. I would say the weakest nationalist, although he talks the biggest fight, would be Trump, because so many of us Americans oppose him. I mean, he only has 50% of the population under general control. He won the electoral college. He won the most number of electoral votes. He won the popular vote for the first time. But massive numbers of people in the United States are opposed to his leadership style, his decision making, and are opposing the Republican regime. So I think he's probably the weakest among them. Putin is a Christo-nationalist. I mean, the head of the Russian Orthodox Church, Kirill, directs him what to do. I mean, he is a very much a Christo-fascist, and he is a nationalist. I mean, Russian leaders have always been nationalists. They always thought that the borders, their enemy was on the border, and finally, they came to the conclusion that their enemy was on the roof. Satellite communications was showing the people around Russia what the other parts of the world were like, and so his enemy was information. Mm-hmm. And so he is unable to effectively control the entire population, but he's a nationalist and as I say, he's a Christo-fascist. Modi, I don't have any opinion on Modi. He's sort of, I mean, I don't have any opinion on how he manages. It's all, he throws out raw meat every once in a while to get people aggravated and upset, and he's a showman. And the reason why he was so close to Putin, of course, and why Putin is negotiating for him to be for India to be on the Security Council, just about money. There's no deep-seated shared nationalist views or anything. He wants India to keep buying his oil.
So for the greater interest of the country or the development of the country, being a nationalist is a qualification or disqualification? Or if you compare with the global aspect, should be a nationalist or should be a liberal leader?
Well, I mean, nationalism is not necessarily contrary to a liberal leadership. A nationalist is somebody who is deeply patriotic, who has the self-interest of the country at heart, which is what leaders should do, particularly when they're elected. I mean, in some respects, only Xi is not elected directly by the people. I mean, there are elections that are held in India, there are elections that are held in Russia and the United States, so that there's some semblance of democracy. Xi, not so much. But he has absolute control. So absolute control renders a person able to be an absolute nationalist.
Sir,
his country first.
One more question I want to do regarding this kind of questions sometimes I receive from our respectable viewers of this show. They said, why don't you ask another questions to Sir Jalton, that American people are very much proactive on welcoming the immigrants, but their president is a big threat for the immigrants. So do you think presidency and the people are getting in collusion of their main motto, because America is a land of opportunity, people will visit there, people will create their fortune over there, but a president like Donald Trump is putting too much trouble for the immigrants?
Yes, Donald Trump is putting too much trouble for the immigrants. And it's very complicated because many people have come into the United States and legitimately they enter the country on a visa or a student visa or work visa, work permit, and the process of becoming a citizen is so slow that they have not yet been able to qualify for American citizenship, although they aspire to that. But under those terms that Trump has laid down, they're an illegal immigrant. Other people have entered the country illegally, crossed the border in Southern California or in Texas or
especially
Arizona.
from Mexico border.
Yeah, they cross the Mexico. That's the flow that comes across the Mexican border into the United States. They may come in illegally. Those people represent a special problem because the reason that they chose to go in illegally is because they could not justify their immigration claim. I personally believe that anyone who has a job in the United States should be exempt from any of the immigration law. If you've come there to work and you've got a family and you're all contributing, you are welcome in America. I have no doubt about that. Back in the day, my forebears, I'm Irish, my forebears were prevented. No Irish need apply for jobs. It's the slogan of the government because the resident population did not want this influx of at that time, lower educated, potato farmers, and so forth. There was resistance. So this is not a new thing. But the fact that these are mostly Hispanic and that they are involved in lower paid jobs makes them an easy target for a guy like Donald Trump. He's not going to throw at some Polish professor at Harvard and say, oh, you're not here legally, you have to go. No. You know, he will pick his targets, and they're always targets that appeal to the lower levels of the American population. Immigration is a difficult system to manage because people see it a land of opportunity, as you point out. But you can't come to the United States illegally. You may stay in the United States unlawfully, and therefore you should be granted the right to apply for citizenship. But calling everybody illegal for minor variations in the immigration law will go nowhere. It's just making enemies of everybody.
So let us talk about the biggest problem of Bangladesh. Bangladesh is now hosting the second largest refugee, I mean Rohingyas. World leaders has come forward when the problems took place. Nowadays they are also withdrawing their financial supports. And do you think Bangladesh is capable to host 1.52 million Rohingyas for an uncertain time? So don't you think Rohingya repatriation is so much high priority subject to the Bangladesh government and also Myanmar? But we don't see any hope. Do you see any hope?
I don't. I don't think that the government, first of all, if the government changes in Myanmar, it's possible. Aung San Suu Kyi would probably have been able to form some sort of a compromise about this. But Myanmar has its own splits. I mean, the Arakan army is also now saying that Rakhine State is safe, come on back. I doubt it. I think that this is an intractable problem as it currently exists. I think that, and I don't know whether this has already happened, whether there's been a plan for the relocation of multiple members of the population, educated Rohingya, to be placed in European countries or the United States or other places. I've heard that happens, but I have not seen any numbers that would justify that discussion. I think it's an intractable problem, as I said, and I will say to the viewers in Bangladesh, you should be proud of the fact that your government showed such compassion when all of these people came in to enter the country. There had been Rohingyas before, and I've been down there and visited Teknaf and all of the other camps just because out of curiosity to see what it looked like. Bangladesh, it's a political solution, then there's no solution. The finances are drying up, and people who are born, I've been outside of refugee camps, people who are married there and born there and who are having a job there and have learned English to speak there, they are not going to go back. Where the houses have been burned down and their way of life has been completely decimated. They're not going to go back. So I don't know what the actual solution is, but when the numbers get so extreme as that, there's no way around it.
Sir, you worked in and you lived in Gaza.
Yes, I
one
did.
of the devastated area in the world. You have experience over there. You have seen the Rohingya issues on spot. If I ask you in a short question, what do you advise to the policymakers of Bangladesh or the head of the government how to resolve this problem if we put some bullet points as your advice?
They're going to hate me, I tell you. But 2 years ago, 2.5, 3 years ago maybe, I wrote a piece on LinkedIn where I proposed that you had to find some way to nationalize some of the Rohingya refugees and give them some sort of a limited residency status, permanent residency status. Right now they are seeking jobs a little bit outside and they're allowed, but I think that it would be wise for the leadership of Bangladesh to take control of this problem and try to resolve it on its own through negotiation with the people in the refugee camps and work out as best they can some accommodation, because a political solution with the current junta there, it's not possible. The money is drying up, as you say. There cannot be 2 million, 1.5 million starving, uneducated people in your territorial area and let them simply let this problem fester.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So government should go for a high priority concentration to resolve this problem, start talking in diplomacy with the counterpart Myanmar junta, and to solve this problem. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll just conclude, but before that I have two very breakthrough breaking news. Microsoft has suspended certain cloud or AI services to Israel. For Israel, Microsoft has suspended two services, cloud and AI. On the other side, France's former president Nicolas Sarkozy has been sentenced to prison following the criminal conspiracy conviction. These are two breaking news at the last stage you have got. Ladies and gentlemen, we will see you soon, and you will see Sir John Dalton soon as a host of this program. I'll see you tomorrow.